There's something nobody tells you about the way you've been trying to attract money, love, or success into your life, and it's the reason none of it is working. Actually, scratch that. It's worse than that. The way most people try to manifest is the exact reason what they want keeps running away from them. And I know that sounds backward. I know you've probably heard the opposite. But stay with me for the next few minutes, because I'm going to show you something that neuroscience, quantum physics, and ancient wisdom traditions have all been quietly agreeing on for decades. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Before we go any further, I want you to drop something in the comments right now. Just type this: I am the first cause. My frequency commands my reality. Go ahead, do it now. I'm going to explain exactly what that means and why it's more scientifically accurate than anything you've probably been told about manifestation. But write it first, because the act of writing it is already part of the process we're going to talk about today. Now, let's start with the moment your whole strategy fell apart without you knowing. Think about the last time you really deeply wanted something. Maybe it was financial freedom. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a job, a house, a version of yourself you keep almost becoming. Think about how badly you wanted it. Think about the effort you put in, the visualizations, the affirmations, the vision boards, the prayers, the rituals, the relentless, almost exhausting focus on that thing. And think about what happened. Or more accurately, think about what didn't happen. Because here's what most people experience. The more intensely they chase something, the more it seems to retreat. The more they try to manifest, the more the manifestation slips away. And they assume the problem is that they're not doing it right. They need a better technique, a more powerful affirmation, a cleaner visualization, more discipline, more faith, more effort.
But what if the effort itself is the problem? What if the trying is exactly what's keeping you stuck? There's a principle in psychology called reactance. Robert Cialdini wrote about it. Robert Brehm documented it extensively in the 1960s and 70s. The core idea is devastatingly simple. The more pressure you apply to achieve a specific outcome, the more resistance you create, both externally and internally. Your nervous system interprets intense desire as evidence of lack, not abundance. Lack. When you desperately want something, your brain isn't registering that you have it. It's registering that you don't. And because the subconscious mind operates entirely on felt states, not on words or intentions, what it actually receives from you in those intense moments of wanting is the emotional signature of absence, of not having, of need. And it faithfully, mechanically, automatically replicates that exact state into your external reality. This isn't mysticism. This is neuroscience. Your subconscious mind processes approximately 11 million bits of information per second. Your conscious mind handles about 40. 40. That's the gap you're working with when you sit down with your vision board and try to think your way into a new reality. You are using the 40 to try to override the 11 million. It's not a fair fight. It never was. And the 11 million have been running on the same emotional programming for decades, broadcasting the same frequency, drawing the same results, day after day after day.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Here's where the story changes. Because the subconscious mind, that 11 million bit per second processing engine, has a door. A very specific, very real, neurologically documented door. And that door opens in a window of time so precise, so consistent across every human being, regardless of age, gender, background, or belief system, that once you know it, you realize the entire architecture of manifestation has been right there waiting for you. You've just been trying to walking through the walls instead of the door. The door opens in exactly 17 seconds. Now, I need to be careful here because the 17-second threshold has been widely discussed in the personal development world, and some people have reduced it to something almost too simple. So let me give you the real science behind what's actually happening in your brain during those 17 seconds, because it completely changes how you use it. In 1949, Donald Hebb, a Canadian neuropsychologist, published a foundational theory that would become the cornerstone of modern neuroscience. Hebb's rule states, neurons that fire together, wire together. What this means in practice is that every thought you hold, really hold, not just skim across, activates a neural pathway. And when you hold that activation for a sustained, uninterrupted period, the neurons involved begin to strengthen their connections. The pathway becomes more efficient, more automatic, more dominant. The thought stops being an effortful act of will and starts becoming a default pattern in your nervous system. The minimum threshold for this activation cascade to begin is somewhere in the range of 15 to 17 seconds of uninterrupted, emotionally congruent focus. Below that threshold, the neural pattern activates but doesn't anchor. It fires but doesn't wire. You get the flash without the installation. This is exactly why most affirmations don't work. You say the words, you feel the flicker of possibility, and then your habitual thought pattern reasserts itself before the 17-second window closes. The installation never completes. The old frequency immediately reclaims dominance, and you're back where you started, confused about why nothing is changing. But hold a feeling, a specific, coherent, emotionally honest feeling for 17 uninterrupted seconds, and something neurologically different begins to happen. The prefrontal cortex, which governs rational thought and executive function, begins to quiet. The limbic system, which governs emotion, memory, and deeply encoded belief, becomes more dominant. You begin to shift from beta brainwave activity, the fast, analytical, surface-level thinking you use to navigate your daily life, into the slower, more receptive alpha frequencies. And alpha is where the subconscious becomes permeable, where the 11 million start to listen.
Hold that frequency for 68 seconds, 4 consecutive 17-second increments, and the research suggests you've activated enough neural momentum to begin a measurable shift in your default emotional baseline. Not permanently, not in one session, but the process has begun. The seed has been planted below the surface. And here's what most people miss. The feeling you hold during those 17 seconds cannot be a feeling of wanting. Wanting is a future tense emotional signal. It broadcasts lack. It tells your subconscious that the thing you want exists somewhere out there, in a future that hasn't arrived yet, in a reality you don't currently occupy. The feeling must be one of already being. Not wanting wealth, being wealthy. Not hoping for love, being the person who is already loved. Not chasing confidence, inhabiting the body, the voice, the quiet certainty of someone who never questions their own worth.
This is the distinction that ancient teachers tried to convey in language that modern science is only now catching up to explain. When Jesus said in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, that you must believe you have already received, not that you will receive, but that you have already received, he was describing a precise neurological instruction for subconscious reprogramming. When Neville Goddard wrote in The Power of Awareness that consciousness is the only reality, he was pointing to the same mechanism. When quantum physicists describe the observer effect, the documented phenomenon by which the act of observation collapses the wave function, shifting probability into actuality, they are circling the same truth from a different direction. The 3D world you experience every day, the physical circumstances of your life, your bank account, your relationships, your body, your opportunities, is not the origin point of your reality. It is the echo of it. It is a printout. A shadow cast by a light source you cannot directly see with your eyes, but can absolutely feel and direct from the inside. What you call the present moment, what you can touch and measure and see, is technically the past. By the time sensory information travels from the world through your receptor cells into your nervous system and is processed into a conscious experience, you are already between 80 and 200 milliseconds behind the actual event. Your brain, as neuroscientist David Eagleman's research brilliantly illustrates, is constantly constructing a coherent narrative of reality from incomplete, delayed data. You are never perceiving the present directly. You are always experiencing a reconstruction, a best-guess model built from expectation, memory, and sensory input. This means the world you see is, in a very real and measurable sense, already the past. The circumstances you're trying to change by reacting to them have already been generated by a previous version of your frequency. You cannot change the echo by yelling at it. You change it by changing the source of the sound. You are the source of the sound. You are not a product of your circumstances. You are the cause of them, which is exactly why I asked you to write what you wrote in the comments. I am the first cause. My frequency commands my reality. That's not a positive affirmation in the motivational poster sense. That is a neurologically and philosophically accurate statement about the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. Own it. Now, let's talk about how to actually use the 17-second window, because knowing the theory and being able to apply it are two very different things. And there is one particular state, one specific window in your neurological day, where this technique becomes exponentially more powerful, where the door doesn't just crack open, where it swings wide. That window is the hypnagogic state. Hypnagogia is the transitional zone between waking consciousness and sleep. Every single night, you pass through it. Most people pass through it unconsciously, unaware of its significance. But researchers from Harvard Medical School, including Dr. Deirdre Barrett and her work on problem solving during sleep, have consistently found that this state of consciousness is uniquely, almost absurdly open to suggestion and reprogramming. The reason is straightforward. In hypnagogia, your critical faculty, the part of your conscious mind that evaluates, filters, and rejects new information, has essentially gone offline. The skeptical gatekeeper is asleep before you are. And what remains is the direct access line to your subconscious mind, which is now completely unguarded, absorptive, and receptive. Thomas Edison reportedly used this state deliberately. He would sit in a chair holding ball bearings in his hands. As he drifted toward sleep and his muscles relaxed, the ball bearings would drop, the sound would wake him, and he would immediately capture whatever imagery or ideas had surfaced in that boundary state. Salvador Dalí did something similar with a key and a metal plate. These weren't eccentricities. These were intentional techniques for accessing the most powerful, creative, and receptive state the human mind naturally enters. You have access to this state every single night, for free, without any special equipment or training. And you have almost certainly been wasting it. Here's what to do instead.
Tonight, as you lie down and feel your body beginning to relax, that first wave of heaviness in your limbs, that gentle blurring of the boundary between waking thought and the drift toward sleep, that is your moment. That is the open door. And what you do in that moment has been documented across spiritual traditions for thousands of years as one of the most transformative practices available to a human being. You are not going to visualize something. You are not going to affirm something. You are not going to try to manifest anything at all. Trying is the old game. We are done with trying. Instead, you are going to assume a state. Pick one feeling, not a scene, not a story, not a future event, a feeling. The clean, simple, unmistakable feeling of a specific emotional truth about yourself. Wealthy and secure, and it's completely natural. Deeply loved, and it's always been this way. Confident, at ease, powerful in a quiet way. Whatever the core of what you've been chasing actually is, not the thing, but the feeling you believe the thing will give you. Distill it down to its emotional essence. And in that hypnagogic window, simply feel it as already true, not working toward it, not hoping for it, just breathing in it, just wearing it like a coat you've had for years, settled into it, at home in it. And hold that feeling, without strain, without effort, without force, for 17 seconds. Just 17 seconds of honest, relaxed, already true feeling. That's it. And if you drift into sleep while still holding it, even better. Because what you carry into sleep is what your subconscious mind processes, rehearses, and deepens for the next several hours. You will have handed the 11 million bits per second a new instruction. Not a demand, not a wish list, an instruction. A frequency to match, a new default to install.
Do this consistently, and I mean consistently, not once or twice before you dismiss it, and you will begin to notice something subtle at first, and then increasingly undeniable. The circumstances of your life will begin to reorganize themselves around the new frequency you have been broadcasting. Not because the universe is granting your wishes, but because your perception, your choices, your behavior, your energy, your conversation, your posture, your attention, all of it begins to align with the state you have been practicing. And aligned systems produce aligned results. That's not magic. That's mechanics. But here's the part that requires real honesty, and most videos like this won't say it. Consistency is everything. One session of 17 seconds is neurologically meaningful, but not transforming. You are working against decades of habitual frequency. Decades of emotional patterns that your subconscious has refined and reinforced every single day. One meditation, one hypnagogic session, one moment of clarity does not override years of automated programming. What it does is begin the process, plant the seed, open the conversation between your conscious intention and your subconscious reality. Neuroscience suggests it takes somewhere between 21 and 66 days of consistent practice for new neural pathways to reach the threshold of automaticity, the point where a pattern begins to function as a default rather than an effort. That's 2 to 9 weeks of nightly 5-minute sessions in the hypnagogic state. That's all. Not hours, not rituals requiring special conditions. 5 minutes at the threshold of sleep, holding a feeling that's already true. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who lived in the 1st century, wrote something that maps onto this principle with remarkable precision. In the Enchiridion, he states that some things are in our power and some things are not. The things in our power are opinion, motivation, desire, and aversion. What he was pointing at 2,000 years before the neuroscience existed to explain it was exactly this. The only thing you can directly control is your internal state. And your internal state is the cause, not the consequence of your external circumstances. Viktor Frankl, writing from a context of unimaginable suffering and man's search for meaning, arrived at the same conclusion. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The space Frankl is describing is the same space you access in the hypnagogic state. The same 17-second window. The same moment where you are neither fully awake nor fully asleep, neither fully defined by your past nor fully imprisoned by it. That space is where your reality is actually created. Not in your actions, not in your hustle, not in your strategy, your effort, your grinding persistence. Those things matter. They matter enormously. But they are the output of your frequency, not its source. A person operating from a frequency of scarcity and fear will exhaust themselves, taking action that produces more scarcity and fear, because the actions emerge from a system calibrated to expect exactly that. A person operating from a frequency of already having, of settled abundance, of quiet confidence, of genuine internal sufficiency, takes the same actions and produces radically different results, because the entire system is calibrated differently. The choices look different, the opportunities that surface look different, the conversations that happen look different. The way other people respond to that person looks different. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is determined not by your conscious declarations, but by the sustained emotional frequency of your subconscious mind, the frequency you broadcast most consistently, most automatically, most deeply. The 17-second rule is not a shortcut. It is not a trick. It is not a promise that you'll be a millionaire in 90 days if you just feel good before bed. It is a neurologically grounded, historically validated, practically accessible method for beginning to change the frequency you broadcast, which is the only thing that will actually change the reality you experience. So tonight, when your body gets heavy and your thoughts start to blur, don't fall asleep on autopilot. Don't let the most receptive moment of your day slip by unnoticed, same as always. Step into that door deliberately. Choose the feeling you want to inhabit. Hold it for 17 seconds. Let it be easy. Let it be real. Not forced. Not performed. Real. You are not waiting for your reality to change so that you can feel differently. You are going to feel differently first. And reality, which is always the echo, never the source, will have no choice but to reorganize itself accordingly. Because you are not the product of your circumstances. You never were. You are the first cause.
And if that landed for you, go to the comments right now and write it. I am the first cause. My frequency commands my reality. Because something interesting happens when you declare that publicly, in writing, in a space where other people doing the same work can see it. You create a social contract with your own intention. You signal to your nervous system that this isn't just a thought you had, it's a position you're taking. And that signal matters. Research in behavioral psychology, including studies by Dr. Robert Cialdini on the principle of commitment and consistency, consistently shows that publicly declared intentions produce measurably higher follow-through than private ones. You are not just watching a video, you are making a choice. Make it out loud. In the next video, I'm going to show you what happens after the 17 seconds. Specifically, the 2 most common mistakes people make immediately after entering the right state, and how both of them cancel the entire process before it can take root. One of them you would never guess. It's something you probably do automatically, without thinking, within minutes of a powerful session. And it systematically erases everything you just built. You're going to want to know what it is. So make sure you're subscribed, because that one's coming soon. Until then, remember, The 3D world you're looking at is not the cause of anything. It is the record of what you have already been. The cause is invisible, internal, and completely within your reach. It has always been within your reach. And now you know exactly where the door is. 17 seconds, every night, starting tonight.